I want to start off today by welcoming our various guests. Dr. Leto, if you don't know, because Dr. Leto has been here as our interim head since November, so it's a pretty new change. Dr. Shenron Leto, all the distinguished members of our panel, I see them at the back, Mr. Ransone, Mr. Druso, Mr. Bell, our keynote speaker, Suna Park. I just want to welcome you all, the White Lodging team, faculty, friends, colleagues, students. I want to welcome you to the first, or very, very first, Hotel Leadership Seminar. Let me just say this. The goal of this seminar today is to really bring together researchers and practitioners in the area of lodging to examine one topical issue that is affecting our industry both in the United States and around the world. And of course, is this issue of technology. We're excited that you're all here, Susan and I, because we are the faculty members leading this effort. We are very, very excited that you're here, and we hope that the next 3 hours you'll find your time here to be very fruitful. Just to remind you, the theme of this morning's event is Technologies and Processes in Lodging Post-COVID-19. What should we keep? What will fizzle out? So a quick review of the program this morning. You might have seen a schedule at the registration desk as well. I'm going to be introducing our 2 speakers, Dr. Leto, and then our keynote speaker, after which we're going to have our panel discussion. Then Victoria Wicks, the general manager of the Union Club Hotel, will be talking about careers in white lodging. Then we are going to have our networking and lunch, thanks to Vicky and the Union Club team. And then we're going to end today with a vote of thanks. So let me begin by introducing Dr. Shenron Leto. Dr. Leto, who is standing right there in the wings waiting, is a full professor in our White Lodging J.W. Marriott Jr. School of Hospitality and Tourism Management. She has been our interim head since, I think, November of this year. She took over from Dr. Giselli. And if you did not know, students and our friends from White Lodging, she's an accomplished scholar. She has published over 130 journal articles. You can find her work in some of the leading journals in our field, including Annals of Tourism Research, Tourism Management, Journal of Travel Research, among others. Her particular area of expertise is destination experience management. And one noteworthy fact about Dr. Leto is that she is a collaborator with our keynote speaker in the area of hotel technology research. So she's no stranger to the topic and to the theme this morning. But I must say, in a few minutes, she's going to be joining the podium just to give some brief words and greetings in her capacity of interim head of the School of Hospitality. So let me just briefly also introduce our keynote speaker. Our keynote speaker is no stranger to hotel technology research and hotel business. Her name is Suna Park. Suna is a third-year doctoral student in our school. Her research is technology applications in hospitality business, and she has 2 journal articles on the topic, which is a major accomplishment because she's still in her doctoral program. And believe it or not, those 2 articles that she collaborated with Dr. Leto on are in Tier 1 journals. So she rocks. She has experience in the lodging sector with large hotel brands. Suna is from South Korea, and a little bit later after Dr. Leto, she'll be talking about technologies in lodging post-COVID-19. What should we keep? What should we be cautious of? So let me just welcome now Dr. Shenron Leto, followed by Ms. Suna Park.
Thank you, Dr. Nicely, for that wonderful introduction. Good morning. Welcome to the very first Hotel Leadership Seminar of the White Lodging J.W. Junior School of Hospitality and Tourism Management. What an event we are having, and I'm very happy to be able to talk to you at this particular occasion. Today we bring together students, professionals from White Lodging, and scholars to share perspectives, share insights from hotel research and practices. And this is the very first collaboration between White Lodging and our school. And I'm very certain this may just be the beginning of a new tradition. The Leadership Seminar Series aligns perfectly with our school's mission of cultivating global leaders through offering rigorous educational programs, rigorous research programs, as well as innovative engagement programs. The theme of this year's hotel seminar, which is Technologies and Processes in Lodging post-COVID-19, couldn't be more timely. In fact, applications of technology really has gone back way before COVID-19. I remember about 5 or 6 years ago in my marketing class, we had a little discussion about a scenario. So the scenario was, you haven't seen your grandmother for a few years, and you travel all the way from Midwest to California to visit your grandma. And the grandma opened the door to welcome you, and the grandma has a few choices. She could either give you a warm, human-based embrace and welcome you home. Or she could roll out her little robot, service robot, and say, hey, go give my grandson or granddaughter a hug. And the students laughed. But really, technology allows us to have choices nowadays, you know. And so what might be a good way to welcome our guests is the topic today through technology utilization. Our field is experiencing remarkable changes as the influx of technological and societal forces are rapidly infusing into the field novel phenomena, novel customer needs and wants, and novel practices. One example of such practices, of such changing dynamics, of course, is the impact of artificial intelligence technology-induced technological applications, as they challenge the very foundational concepts for our field, which is human-to-human services and guest-host interactions. On the other hand, there is also an increasing call for a more humanistic management approach that is grounded in creativity, generosity, and purpose. The complexity of the 21st century necessitates innovative thinking for our practice fields, and also necessitate a very sophisticated workforce with an acute understanding of the larger issues of our society, such as climate change, food security, pollution, and health and wellness of our people. So, where do we anchor our practices? What principles to follow in our business decision making? I think for me, two large concepts are golden. One being hospitality, and the other being well-being. More than ever, the world needs hospitality. Hospitality is the primal foundation for everything we do as a field. Hospitality denotes an enabled spirituality, a virtue of a great soul that cares for the whole universe through the ties of humanity, as someone once said. Hospitality stands for the golden standards for designing, marketing, delivering, and managing the experiences, products, and services that we provide. Hospitality also represents a desired organizational orientation, where business processes, models, and operations are foregrounded by the hospitality spirit of care and generosity, and characterized by outcomes such as personalization, happiness, and wellness for consumers. The second important guiding principle is that of the well-being orientation of today's society. The tourism and hospitality industries can design experiences and services that better support optimum health and wellness of our customers. At a systems level, wellness needs should become an overarching orientation governing product experiences and services and our marketing messages. Healthy behaviors can be maximized when the hospitality service systems support healthful choices and when customers are motivated, educated, and nudged to make those choices. So I'm very excited about today's events, and please enjoy the keynote speech, the panel discussions, and the networking that follows. Enjoy your morning. Thank you.
All right, so good morning, everyone. My name is Suna. I'm a third-year PhD student majoring in hospitality and tourism management at Purdue University. So first of all, thank you so much for this opportunity that I can be a keynote speaker at this first hotel leadership seminar. In this session, what I'd like to particularly talking about is the technologies in lodging post-COVID-19, particularly focused on what technology should be kept and what technology should be cautious of. So first of all, I want to start from the general background of the lodging operations after the post-COVID-19. Of course, the lodging industry, it has faced different kind of crises and risks, such as due to economic downturns or natural disasters. But I believe that everyone would agree that the current COVID-19 pandemic, it has shaken the industry the most. Therefore, the most important question that was given to the industry is how the lodging industry should adjust to this risk. What should be a resilience plan against to this current health risk? So we have seen the different adjustment and effort that made by the lodging industry, such as they provide us like flexibility in terms of their cancellation policies, or they can developing another like new safety measures or training employees. However, despite of these significant changes or effort that made by the lodging industry, a lot of guests, they are still expected to travel or stay in the lodging industry. They are still expected to hesitate to travel and stay in the lodging industry, and mainly because of the residual health risk that might have with the current health risk. Similarly, guests today, they have renewed their focus on health and safety because of the current pandemic. So therefore, when they decide to stay in the lodging industry, they want to feel the similar level as comfort as well as safety compared to when they stay at their homes. Therefore, key to manage this crisis is to convince our guests that it's a safe place to stay. And the technology, it can play a critical role in terms of the providing a perceived safety and health, not only physically as well as emotionally. Technology, it also can increase the extra safety level over the lodging environment as well. Even though there are some people who believe that current COVID-19 pandemic, it may be just a temporary disruption for the society and the lodging industry. However, a lot of experts, they have believed that most of the change that has been made due to COVID-19, it will more likely to stay under the new term, under the term new normal. And so as the technology applications in the lodging industry as well. Just like what Dr. Leto mentioned, even before the COVID-19 pandemic, we have seen the upward trend of the technology applications in the lodging industry. However, the COVID-19, it significantly fastened the pace of technology applications in the lodging industry globally. However, what I want to highlight from this speech is not that every technology, it will bring the same benefit to the lodging industries, which means that certain technology, it may be extra beneficial as compared to other technologies. On the other hand, other technology may not really. And also, even if the same technology depends on how service provide in their service operation, it can be used as either good, like beneficial, or malicious. And just like everything else, the technology, it also has its limitations and defects. Therefore, we should be cautious of such limitations of technologies. And that's the reason that why current topic, what should be kept and what should be cautious of, is important. So what technology should we keep? I'd like to mention two particular types of technology during this speech session. The first technology is the technology that helps to increase the health and cleanliness standard of the property. And then the second technology is the technology that helps guests to avoid any unnecessary direct contact with other people. So I will start from the survey that has been done by one of the travel and marketing companies, Skift. So what they did was they asked multiple potential lodging guests, and then they ask which particular lodging type they would like to stay and what's the primary reason for that. For me, what was noteworthy was that disregard they choose wherever they choose, including the traditional branded hotels or boutique hotels or even resorts. The major reason they choose to stay in that hotel is because they believe that such lodging type has a higher cleaning standard as compared to other lodging types. So it may not be a surprise for some of you because who wants to stay in a place does not offer the clean space. But what I want to say is that because of the current COVID-19, the cleanliness responsibility has been far magnified than before. Similarly, me and Dr. Leto, we conduct academic research to reveal which safety measure has the strongest influence on hotel customers. So we showed 11 different safety measures that has been recently introduced by the hotels, including providing sanitation kit or installing plexiglasses. And among the 11 different safety measures, adopting the cleanliness technology, it has the strongest influence on not only their hotel choice behavior, but also their willingness to pay more, which support the importance of advanced cleaning technology again. So therefore, the technology that enhancing disinfection and reshaping the lodging industry cleanliness protocol should be remained. For example, ultraviolet technologies and electrostatic sprayer should be kept. Such technology allows the service provider to reduce potential health and safety risk through the removing any germs or bacteria in guest rooms, or even on the high touch surfaces that have been one of most consideration and concerns for the lodging guests because the lodging has a lot of communal spaces, such as lobby area or elevators. Also, the technology that can be used as a first-line employee while improving guest service should be remained. Now, there are more and more guests, they prefer to avoid any long queue or crowd because of the current COVID-19 pandemic. Therefore, mobile technologies such as the keyless entry and contactless payment technology or contactless check-in, check-out method that are designed to provide guests to more convenient services as well as better health and safety standards through practicing social distance should be remained. In addition, other technology that help controlling the guest rooms by guests themselves can provide not only personalized service, but also increase their overall service experiences due to the perceived control that they were given to the guest. So something to take note here is that even if such contactless technology should be remain in the lodging industry, the lodging industry should provide a warm feeling to the guest. The essence of the hospitality is providing memorable service experiences as well as provide a sense of welcome to their guests. Of course, I understand there is a misconception that such contactless technology, it may hinder from building a close relationship of guest and employee or guest and company. However, such technology also can be helpful for free up the employees so they can have more personal and meaningful interaction with their guests. For example, employees, they can have more time to focus on the moments that is matter for the guests. For example, they can give advice to their guests where to head out or where to eat before they head out their day trip, or they can deal with any urgent service issue they may have with the lodging properties. Or they can just have simply taking time to engage with their guests through friendly conversation with them. So again, the two technologies should be remained. The first technology is the technology that increase the cleanest standard, and then the second technology is the technology that can be helpful reducing any unwanted direct contact with other people. So next, just like the what technology should be kept section, there are two particular things that I would like to discuss about what technology should be cautious of. And the first thing that I would like to say is the complete automated service without any human touch. And then the second thing is the biometrics-based technology that can raise guest privacy concerns. So firstly, the lodging industry should be cautious of providing full automated service to guests without any human touch. So now we are seeing more and more lodging property that provide the complete automation service without human touch. For example, Yotel located in New York City or Hana Hotel located in Japan. Of course, such hotel can provide some memorable experiences for certain people who especially love technologies or early adopters. However, we should remember that not everyone is familiar with technologies. And also, lodging industry is one of the most service-oriented industry even among the hospitality industry. Therefore, it's difficult to assume that everyone is ready to serve themselves via technology rather than receiving traditional human interaction services by employees. In addition, the service failure because of these technology malfunctions as well as the technology user themselves, it is inevitable. However, the technology, it does not have service recovery function, which more likely to increase the guest frustration when they facing the service failure with technologies as compared to the traditional human interaction services. On the other hand, still like human employees, they can make a complex judgment, especially when there are unexpected events occur, such as service failure. And I also want to say that there are multiple studies that the study focused on the technology applications in the lodging context, and most of them found that even if the guests, they are appreciate and enjoy the benefit of technology, they still prefer to have availability of the human employees' help. So in this regard, the service provider, they can provide kind of a sort of semi-automated service, which is a combination of technologies and traditional human service instead of providing full automated service without any human employees' help. So in that way, the lodging industry, they can provide a flexibility in terms of the service. For example, the guests, they can choose the preferred service options between technologies or traditional human employee services, or even if when they're operating technology and they're facing the service failure, they can get an immediate help from the employees. And the second thing that what we should be cautious is that guest privacy risk because of the biometric-based technologies. Because of the adoption of technology, information format and data format of lodging industry has been extremely computerized, which means that guest records are becoming more easier to copy, transferred, and searched. Therefore, naturally, it raises some ethical concerns, especially related to guest privacy violations. The lodging industry should be mindful that there always been a risk of data breach. For example, last year, Rich Hotel located in UK, they experienced a data breach. And even a month ago, one of the luxury lodging group, the Central Hotel in Thailand, they suffered a data breach so that some of their guest credit card information was compromised by the hackers. Therefore, we should be cautious of technology that collect even more sensitive data, such as biometrics-based data. Since biometrics data is not only unique, that is enough to personally identifiable, but also it's permanent. Therefore, it can raise the higher risk when it's breached compared to the other traditional data that the lodging industry used to use, such as contact information. For example, some hotels now, they have adopted face recognitions, so they can use the guest facial features instead of the traditional room key, or the contactless payment methods. Or another example is voice assistant technologies, such as Amazon Alexa or Google Assistants, so that they can use such technology as their personal butler in their guest rooms. In fact, I also conducted with another academic study with Dr. Leto and one of my colleague, Mohammed, and relate to how the biometrics-based service technology is perceived by the hotel guests. And we found out that hotel guests, they're more likely to concern relate to their privacy rather than enjoying the benefit of such services. Of course, such technology, it can be convenient for the people. Again, I'm not trying to say we should eliminate such technology. We should be just cautious of such technologies, because guests, they do not need to call or visit to the concierge desk physically to ask simple questions, or guests, they do not need to carry a physical key card, try to open the door, or they don't even need to carry their mobile phone to open the door. But then again, we should be aware with the guest privacy concerns and risk when we are using such biometrics-based technologies, because once biometrics data is compromised, it can be used for identity theft as well as financial crime. So therefore, the lodging industry, they can give, again, the flexibility to their guests so they can have the control over their privacy, whether they want to use such certain technology or not, instead of implementing such technology to every guest. And also, lodging property, they can invest not only customer-facing technology, such as contactless technology, but also the back-of-the-scene technology that is helpful for secure and protect the guest data, such as the blockchain technologies. Okay, so to sum up, there are, as a final note of my speech, I want to mention that there has been a vast applications of technologies in the lodging industry, and it is true that there are countless benefit was given to the industry, not only industry itself but also guests, especially providing a sense of health and safety against to the current COVID-19 pandemic. However, to further to maximize its benefit, we should be aware of what should be kept and what should be cautious of. Especially, we should keep the technology that can enhance the cleanliness standard as well as technology that can reduce any unwanted/unnecessary contact with other people. On the other hand, we should be cautious of the complete automation without any human touch or guest privacy concern from the biometrics-based technologies. So this is the end of my speech, and thank you so much for your attention.
If I need to take my name tag off, you can. I don't know. I think, Amber, I don't know, I have to ask Anne-Marie. Okay, yeah, I think if you guys want to, you can. I think if you want to, I don't know what the hotel's policy is. Can they remove their masks, Anne-Marie? Can we take masks off?
Do you feel comfortable with this? We're very comfortable with it. We're around each other all the time. Yeah.
Okay. If you guys don't mind, I will too. Okay, are we ready to go? Yes, okay, very good. Thank you, Suna, for kicking off our topic on technology and processes post-COVID-19 in lodging. I'm Dr. Susan Gordon. I'm an assistant professor in the White Lodging, J.W. Marriott Jr. School of Hospitality and Tourism Management. It is my pleasure to host this panel today, so thank you for being with us. I'm going to share some short bios of our panelists, and then we will get started. So Mr. Steve Ransone started at White Lodging in 1996 as the general manager of the Courtyard Indianapolis downtown before he became the opening director of human resources at the Indianapolis Marriott. He also served as the opening general manager of the Courtyard Chicago Magnificent Mile before becoming the vice president of talent and organizational capability. Mr. Ramzone also served as regional vice president for White Lodging. His career in hospitality began at Marriott International with roles in Baltimore, Atlanta, and Jacksonville after graduating with a Bachelor of Science degree in business management from the University of Baltimore. Welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Jason Druso joined White Lodging in 2014 as the vice president of restaurants and was promoted in 2018 to vice president of food and beverage. During his tenure at White Lodging, he's been part of concepting, developing, designing, and opening over 40 restaurants and bars, where many have achieved local and national recognition. Mr. Druso graduated from Miami University in Ohio with a Bachelor of Science degree in finance and marketing. He started out learning the business working for Jeff Ruby Steakhouse in downtown Cincinnati. He held various management positions, including general manager at Carlo and Johnny, which under his management won numerous awards, including Zagat's highest rated steakhouse in America. He became the director of openings and opened 3 more restaurants for the organization. Mr. Druso left to open his own restaurant, Aqua, voted Best New Restaurant in Cincinnati 2006, and ran a restaurant consulting business before selling the business and moving into the hotel business. He joined Weingarter & Hammonds in 2009 and held various hotel assistant general manager and general manager positions at IHG and Marriott Properties until joining White Lodging. Welcome, Jason. As Regional Director of Sales and Marketing for White Lodging, Mr. Damon Bell assists hotels within his region to drive top-line revenue and marketing initiatives. Prior to this role, he first spent 10 years with Omni Hotels in a number of operations and sales positions. After that, he was a property sales leader for 3 White Lodging hotels, including the Renaissance Boulder Flatiron Hotel, the JW Marriott Indianapolis, and the JW Marriott Austin. Mr. Bell has been recognized by Marriott as the Western Regional Sales Leader of the Year, recognized by Omni Hotels as Director of Sales of the Year, and has led his teams to Sales Team of the Year recognition on 2 separate occasions. He is a resident of West Lafayette and directly supports the Union Club Hotel with plans to increase his involvement with the School of HTM and launch program at the Union Club. Thank you for being here, Damon. So I'd now like to turn to our topic of technologies and processes in lodging post-COVID-19. Each of you will have 5 minutes to share on this topic within your respective areas, and then we'll have some time to get into some conversation and responses to each of your what you've shared with us. And then we will give all of you a chance to ask some questions of our panel. So Steve, could I ask you to kick it off for us?
Sure. Good morning. We're really pleased to be here. So in my role as VP of Rooms Operations, I have housekeeping, laundry, and front office. And so COVID, when it hit, really was interesting for us because we had to very, very quickly look at how were we cleaning rooms, how were we disinfecting and laundry, how were we creating an experience for our guests, although there were very few guests at the time that this thing happened. How are we providing them as much touchless technology as possible? So the brands had always had mobile check-in, mobile key, but this thing really sped that up. They got very, very focused on making sure that all of the hotels had mobile key, they were really focused on key performance indicators of how quickly are we responding to text requests, how many mobile keys are we sending out in a day, how many people are receiving a mobile check-in notification, so they became laser focused on that. The other thing is they created technology in the rooms that allowed people to not have to touch the remote control because that was a big concern. So for instance, if you stay here and you turn on the TV, there is a QR code that pops up on the TV and it invites you to use your phone as your remote control, and it's a great technology. It works really, really well. So it's very simple there. We have looked at other contactless technology, such as delivery robots and robotic vacuums. We're actually using a robotic vacuum in our JW in Indianapolis. But what we found, and it was in the questions and in the notes that she sent, that the ability for us to use the technology is directly reflected on how easy it is to use. And so people still want that human interaction. They still want to know that when there's a problem, they can have somebody to help them. If they walk in to the hotel and there's no line and they see a person, they're still going to prefer dealing with that person rather than the mobile app, because it's something they're familiar with. They're familiar with that. Now, if they walk into a hotel and there's a huge line and they know that there's an option to use their touchless and to use their app, they're going to do it. So what you really find, in my opinion, in this thing is that people go back to what they're familiar with, and there's a certain amount of training that we not only have to do on the back end with our employees on how to use it and what's important, but there's also a huge amount of training that happens from a customer standpoint. And so when you're talking about technology in the industry, as we continue to implement processes and continue to look at how do we improve the contactless technology, we have to look at what that change looks like. The other thing that I would say is that the use of technology in the industry is as much driven by the lack of employees as anything. We've got to find ways to do things with fewer people because we have fewer people. So a lot of those things are around how do you do a check-in for 1,000 people at our JW in Indianapolis and get 1,000 people using their mobile app to check in. That is a huge undertaking. So a lot of times the implementation, the adaptation of that technology, we cannot underestimate as operators how much change there is in that, not only for our own people, but also for the customer. So I think you're going to continue to see things like robotic vacuums. You're going to continue to see mobile check-in, mobile key become more and more important, but we can never underestimate the value and the importance of that human touch and that human availability, that when they need something, customer needs something, they can reach a person. There's nothing more frustrating than not being able to reach a person. I could talk about this for hours because we've looked at so many. I looked at Alexa. There's a company that called Volara that does an Alexa type app that you can put into the guest rooms. To be honest with you, I decided not to put it in. I decided not to put it in because I think it's one more thing for a customer to learn. It does not interact with our computer system, so somebody has to take that information and then put it in to be dispatched out. But the other thing is I was concerned about personal information. I was concerned that customers would be concerned that we were listening to them and then we were using that information to market to them. We didn't want to do that. So there's all different kinds of ways that this is coming into contact or coming into use. We will continue to use it, but we have to understand there's an implementation, there's a change management there. So I will be quiet.
Very good. Thank you.
My turn.
Go ahead, Jason.
Do I
Yes.
lift this up, or- Hello?
I think so.
On?
Is it on?
Hello?
Yes.
Okay. So Jason Druso again. I support the restaurants and banquets for the company. Today I'm going to focus a little bit more on the restaurants and how they were impacted during COVID. I think we all know that we had to shut down our dining rooms. So we had to figure out how are we going to serve our guests. It was a scary time. Definitely for the hotels, and I couldn't even imagine being an independent restaurateur where you didn't have hotel rooms attached to it. So some of the things we looked at, I'm going to touch on 5 things. The first 4 are going to be very familiar. One of the things we had to do with no dining room, we had to look at curbside pickup and delivery. None of our restaurants, well, there's a few, but most of our restaurants did not have, we weren't focused on takeout or delivery. We focused on more on running our dining rooms. We didn't have visibility to our guests to be able to access our menus, place an order, have that order go to the kitchen without somebody picking up the phone and taking that order. So we partnered with a company called ChowNow, which has their own app, and they also can attach a widget to your website. And that's how we connected with our guests, and we're able to generate a new revenue stream. Now that we're rolling out of COVID and there's a lot of demand for our restaurants, we're going to continue it. It's working for us, and we figured out how to how to take care of our guests in the dining room and also be able to generate a new revenue stream. So that was a good win. Second one, we're all familiar with third-party delivery. Again, I'm not sure if everybody knows, but a lot of these third-party delivery companies take 20 to 30% off the top. That's what they charge you. So it's really not that profitable unless it's incremental revenue. So what that means, you're not going to add another manager to do a delivery. You're not going to add more servers or more cooks to do delivery. So we only did that at a few properties where it made sense. But during COVID, again, we have to figure out how to serve people outside of the property. So we rolled out a program throughout the company with DoorDash and partnered with Favor and Postmates. We're able to negotiate deals that made a little bit more sense. And we're continuing those today as well. The third one is contactless payment. I think we've all gone, to kiosks at the airport and other quick service concepts where we've been able to put our order in and then pay for it right there. The one that I really liked that worked for us was pay at the table. We don't use it in our higher end restaurants, but right now we're doing it in some of our more casual and quick service concepts. We have a concept called Zombie Taco. It's in Austin, Texas. And basically you can go in there, you click the QR code, menu pops up, you place your order, you pay for it, goes to the kitchen, and then they text you and your food's ready, and then you go pick it up. So it's worked really well for us, and we'll continue to use that. And as technology advances and it becomes more familiar to some guests, who knows, it may make its way into different restaurants for us. The other one, tech at the table, is what I call it, and that's the QR codes that we see everywhere. I never would have thought of putting a QR code at a table before COVID, but that was the way that we had to operate to go contactless at a table and still give people an experience in our dining rooms. Now that we're out of COVID, some people want to go back to the old way. So what we do is we give people the option of the QR code or a paper menu. One of the things the QR code does for restaurateurs, I'm not sure if people understand how much menus cost. It could cost anywhere from $500 to $3,000 a month. With low margins, that's money that the owner could be putting in their pocket. So you're probably going to see that continue now that guests are okay using a QR code and understand and are familiar with it. I think a lot of these restaurants will continue it. We're operating, doing both. I like the old school paper menus. I'm all about the experience. But we also want to give people the opportunity to go contactless if they want to. The last one is automation. So Steve talked about it, the labor crunch that we hear about in every sector of the economy. It's really hurting us. We're having to come up with new ways to recruit and retain employees and be creative, but inevitably it's going to lead to automation or an acceleration of automation in the restaurant business. I hear that you have robot delivery things rolling around the campus.
Yep.
I saw one in Austin a few weeks ago, and obviously that's coming very quickly. Another thing I saw recently, which really amazed me, is there's actually a robot broiler cook that can sense the heat in a steak, the moisture, and even the marbling of that steak, and cook a perfect temperature as good as any broiler cook in the country. And it's physically in restaurants today. Who would have thought? I can't wait to see if it's what it's hyped up to be. And then you've heard of robot dishwashers that can do the work of 8 people. And then the same thing with the robot arm fry cook that can work 8 fryers at once. And these all take people to make them function, but ultimately it's less. And I think it's just a matter of time before these things become more affordable for restaurants and hotel operators. That it's inevitable. If people don't come back to work, we're going to have to adjust. People are going to take risks that they might not have taken before, and I think things are going to accelerate. What should have taken 10 to 20 years to happen is probably going to happen in 3 to 7. So now that one on the other hand is when we're talking about things to be cautious about. That's one of them that I don't get too excited about it, but it's a reality, and we have to think about the repercussions of what happens if we go that direction. Okay? Thanks.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. In my role in the sales and marketing arm of our business, we are not just selling hotel rooms, but we are reliant on people getting together for meetings and events. So most of my comments will be around the meeting and event side. You know, when the pandemic really impacted us is when people were not allowed to get together in many cases, whether that's for a sporting event, a convention, a wedding, or a meeting like this today. That's one of the best parts of our business is every day is different. We see all of those different types of meetings, from 5 people getting together to 5,000 people getting together. And in most of those cases, then allows us to accommodate them overnight. So the big topic that I'd like to talk about is virtual meetings. Are they here to stay, or will it fizzle out, right? That's our theme today. Well, I'm here to tell you it's going to stay, but only for the right meetings. And what I mean by that is, you know, Jason, Steve, and I meet with a group of leaders with our company multiple times a week. And for the most part, when it's just a few of us, it is virtual. We've adopted Microsoft Teams. That's a fairly new technology for our company. Many other companies have invested in Zoom. And you have to realize a lot of companies that didn't want or have a platform like that were forced to get into that game so that they could continue to collaborate with one another throughout this pandemic. I think that'll continue. Small meetings like that are very effective. And when the agenda is right, meeting online through one of those tools in the corporate environment like we're in works very, very well. Now, in the big convention space, not so much. I think people want to get together. We're seeing that happen. We have a wonderful convention calendar coming to Indianapolis this next year, one of my markets, and we are very bullish that those conventions will happen and they'll have very strong attendance. Not as much as pre-pandemic. International travels still have a hard time coming in. So what they're moving to now is what we call a hybrid approach. Now, in academia, I say you guys have been in a hybrid approach long before the pandemic. That's called online classes, right? But everyone has an opinion on that. I think some people learn and engage better in person, and others can do that online. But I don't see true full virtual environment happening in academia anytime soon, nor do I in conventions. I think about the wedding business we had this last summer. It was a record summer for us, as the number of wedding blocks that stayed in our hotels. I personally attended a wedding this summer that was canceled a year ago. And I was watching Shark Tank the other day. I'm sure many of you are familiar with that show. A person from Denver came on and introduced her company called Wedfully. Wedfully, it was a great product, online product. They assign you a meeting planner. They do all of the videography work for you, and it was very, very nicely put together, but not one shark took her up on her offer, even when it was a good financial deal, and that's because they know people want to get back together in person for their weddings. Now, maybe that business will survive over time. Some might want to have a virtual wedding, or 10 years from now, if we go through another unfortunate virus like this, that could surface again. But for the most part, they didn't see it as an investable product, and that's good news for us, and good news for ballrooms like you have in this building here. So, really to wrap that up, I think virtual meetings are here to stay, only for the right meetings, and for the most part, they'll be hybrid. You could call today a hybrid. For those who have an opportunity to watch this video after today, they can be a part of it, but certainly not like you're a part of it by being here with us. So thanks again for having us today.
Thank you. So I made a couple notes while you all were talking. One thing that stood out to me was your comment, I think it was Steve, about training customers, which I'm sure filters to all of your areas. Can you talk a little bit about how do we train our customers? What can they take away from doing that?
I think a great example is a meeting that I attended at a convention hotel in Orlando. And it was a Marriott meeting, so they forced us to become Bonvoy members. They forced us to download the Bonvoy application. They forced us to check in mobilely. They forced us to use the mobile key. They were able to take the number of check-in people that they would typically have for that check-in from 15 people down to 3. Now, some of those people, they had to move to back-of-house functions. They had to move to the blocking of the rooms and to sending the mobile check-in notification out and sending the mobile key notifications out, because there is a lot that happens on the back end. But I think about that, and I think about how many notifications we receive from our people planning the meeting to say, check in mobily, get your key mobily, you have to do this, we're forcing you to do this. 1,000 people in that convention, 2 people got a hard key. But when you think about how much training it took for us to do that, you think about, typically when you arrive at an airport today, you have all of these mobile kiosks set up. Most of you, when you flew, you walked in for the first time, you saw that, and you thought, oh man, come on. And then you have to learn. And I still, when I travel and I have to check a bag, I still struggle with how the hell do I put this tag on the bag? And so somebody has to be there to help you with that. We are looking at mobile kiosks. Marriott is rolling out mobile kiosks. Unfortunately, they're only in their select service brand hotels, which for us means we need a hotel, a 600-room hotel, a 1,000-room hotel to truly make that work. But then we will still have to have somebody there in the lobby to help them with that. We will still have to be able to encourage them to use it, to prove to them that it's safe, to prove to them that a mobile key is safe. Talking with people in New York who did the pilot on that, one of the general managers said, placement of it is very important, that you can't have it over in a corner. You have to have it like front and center before they get to the front desk so they see that there is another option for checking in. But he said, just because they see it, it's kind of curious, like what is that? They don't necessarily use it. So sometimes it's about having a person there. It's about doing the leg work. I think about in COVID, it became more and more important for us to send pre-arrival check-in, pre-arrival emails out. How did we word that? How did it look? Did it encourage people to read it and to actually pay attention to it? Or was it worded and presented visually where they just went, oh, man, I don't have time for this, delete? So all of those things, the preparation in advance when they arrive, what does it look like when they arrive? And then do we have people there who can hold their hands through it and make sure that they're able to feel comfortable using it? But once that happens and once they get used to it, they become more and more okay with it. They become more and more like, okay, this is, I text to get towels, I don't have to call. I text to get, I can use my mobile app to get room service here in the hotel. But this is all, people are really, really busy. And being able to access the technology and understand it and us holding their hand is really, really important.
Yeah, if they're on vacation, they may not want to do work,
No.
right? That could feel like work
No.
to them.
Get me my key. If I see somebody at the desk who can get this for me, get this for me.
Yeah, yeah. How about in the restaurant space? How have you trained customers to?
I mean, the toughest thing was just, the differences in opinions, and this extends outside of technology, and then I'll get to the technology piece, but, when we had all the restrictions and we're trying to do the right thing, you have some customers that are willing to work with you, and then others that are combative. Oh, sorry. I just, sorry. So basically, that was a challenge, training your staff on how to deal with those things, and then training your managers how to deal with those, and then implementing things like what I talked about before, the QR codes, or the like the contactless, pay at table was like a big win for us in a property where we could go without the servers, and all we had to do was run with a manager, and the place pretty much ran itself. And during that period of time, Austin was in a place where things were tough there. So that was a tool that really allowed us to operate and still, service our guests, but also keep people employed in the kitchen. So.
And Damon, any training of customers in your area?
Well, I can think of something that Much like discussed in the keynote today, a lot of new technology started pre-pandemic, and one of those in the meetings planner realm is what's called a meeting services app that we download on a meeting planner's phone. If you're the meeting planner here today and you notice it's too warm, rather than needing to get up or notify someone that works here at the hotel, you can get on that app and very quickly push an icon to notify the hotel staff that it's too warm in the meeting space, or that we need more coffee, or just any need that you have. That takes training, right?
Yeah.
It's for some meeting planners, it's as simple as how to download an app, right? And then not only how to download the app, but to use its functionality. So typically you do that in the pre-arrival phase or in a what we call a pre-convention meeting before the meeting starts, to teach them how to use that app. The only thing I'll add to that is the app's great, but at the end of the day, what they need is our staff to come and execute their need. So that's what excites me about the fact that we're here today, and hopefully excites you, is we still need you.
Right.
Even though that technology may be helpful to execute the process, we still very much need the staff to pull through what we're trying to get accomplished.
Yeah, very good. That's a great segue into another question I had, which is, how are the jobs of our associates changing? So if there are, that technology is kind of as a supplement, do you see the role of front desk associates or restaurant associates, meeting associates changing and to offer a different type of service to guests, or different skill set you're looking for as you're hiring? I know it's been challenging to hire right now, and so as you move things to technology, are you looking for different skills, or what should the students have as they get ready to come into the industry that would be helpful, knowing that it's a balance of that technology and service?
I don't want to start again, so.
Okay, we'll start.
I talk too much. I got to be right up against the timer.
I'm short. For us in the restaurant business, we're trying as hard as we can to get life back to the normal, and we're in the business of experiences, and I think that those personal connections are important in a restaurant. I look at the restaurant business like it's living theater. The stage is set, you pull the curtains, and we're here to entertain, and that's why you go out to a restaurant. If you're hungry, you go to your fridge for that. You go out to eat to have experiences. So with that, it's tough. There's like this battle with technology. I don't want to lose those experiences. I think where technology is going to really come into play is, again, like we talked about, this labor crunch. It's so painful. Not just making it hard to service our guests, but it's hard on our employees because they're doing three people's jobs. And it's inevitable that we as a company are going to have to look at new ways to, the automation piece is not just about saving money, it's about surviving and supporting the people that we have. And just like Damon said, we're going to need all of you. It's not going to eliminate people. But if I were going to do things today, I would just continue to be forward thinking and think about the future, and always be connected and have an open mind, because things are going to change. So, all right.
You reminded me of in the sales arena, we have seen this before, and there's a new technology that's arrived again to book a meeting room online with all of your specs and details, where you do not necessarily need to interact with a salesperson. So theoretically, you could go on the Union Club's website, book this meeting room, put in that you need this table, these microphones, that podium, the number of people at each seat, your menu, etc. But I think that will work for certain meetings, maybe a small board meeting for a few people. But think of all the variables I just rattled off there today. And as the meeting planner, you want to know that all of those details are organized, that the hotel understands it, that you're getting the meeting room that the website says you're getting. I think that still requires a person. And I know to have this sense of security today, if I were running this meeting, I would want to talk to multiple people at the hotel, including an audiovisual person, the food and beverage person, maybe the general manager, to make sure this was on point and ready to go. So relying solely on that technology would concern me as a meeting planner. However, it might be a nice tool to do their initial search, right, and know the specs of the meeting room and what it holds and what their capabilities are. But at the end of the day, they're going to need one of our salespeople or want one to give them that security. So the last part of your question, for yourselves, is constant change. That's the answer. We've been in this business a number of years. Every year, there's new technology. It was the same when I came out of college as it is today. There's new technology that's going to constantly come at you. I think you've got to either fail quickly with new technology or jump all in. And those who can identify quickly which ones work and don't work, kind of our topic here today, are more successful. But then once you see that technology staying, you've got to pause and master it, and you'll really be set up better for your job, no matter what job it is, if you fully adopt the technology. So,
Very good.
One of the themes is accuracy of information. You as a leader have to make sure that your hotel, your restaurant, they're being represented all over the place. And one of the things that you have to do is you have to make sure that that information is correct, so that when the customer comes to you, they can find the information very quickly, and when they get the information, it's right. So that would be one thing that I would say. That you've got to understand that guest experience starts so much sooner now. It's not just, hey, when they arrive at the front drive. It starts on the internet. You also have to understand that it's not just your paying customer, it's your internal customer, it's the person that you're marketing jobs to. I'm taking a greater role in talent now, and we just implemented a new applicant tracking system. And it has an artificial intelligence aspect of it that is really, really cool. And when I first started interacting with it, I thought it was great because I had a certain type of job I was looking for. It's really cool. Olivia is what it's called. It talks to the applicant. You apply for a job. She says, hey, my name's Olivia. How can I help you today? And it goes through a process of screening. So I thought it was really cool because all I have to do is I just have to look at the person who applies to me and say, schedule an interview, and Olivia actually goes out and can look at my calendar in Outlook and pick 3 times that she presents to the candidate, and then they pick a time, and then boom, it goes on my calendar. When it has been a terrible rollout for the field, because the field has a different type of candidate, they have a different type of need, they have a different way of interacting with it, but also they're really, really busy, and we're asking them to make a major change while they're desperate for associates, and they're really, really busy because they're short-staffed. So that would be the second thing I would say, is you all need to get really, really good at change and being change agents and understanding that there is still a really big human component of this. And the ability to guide people through change and understand that just because you love you're a big gamer, just because you love to text does not necessarily mean that even you are ready for this. But your customer, like you, a 58-year-old guy who, like, texting is fine, but don't take me further than that. You have all different levels of people that you're dealing with when this technology comes to your customer. How do you help them to adapt? And one other thing that I'll say in the internal piece. I believe that robotics are the future, especially when it comes to cleaning. People in the company think I'm nuts. They truly do. They say, oh, you and your robots, you and your freaking robots. We were one of if you may have heard of MadeBot, it's a guy out of Cornell came up with this idea of putting together a robotic vacuum to clean guest rooms. I met him at a conference back in 2016, convinced him that because he's in Austin, we should be his test. So we started testing them at the Westin, and for 2 years we dealt with them. Unfortunately, the MadeBot was making our jobs more difficult because people were having to go and vacuum where they missed in the guest rooms. It was taking too long in the hallways. Finally, I just pulled the plug on them. But there's another company called SoftBank who has a vacuum that we can use in the hallways, we can use in meeting rooms and stuff. So we're testing it, we're using it down at our JW in Austin. One of the things I've learned is that we thought what you do with this thing is you put a QR code on the wall, and you map you take the vacuum, you vacuum the hallway, and then that maps it. And then The SoftBank, the Wiz is what they call it. Wiz runs that course. And so we thought, simple, you just drop the vacuum in place. It runs its thing. What could be better? And when you talk about then your associate can stock closets, can strip rooms, can do all those things that right now they didn't have time for, which I think goes back to technology is there, but the human piece, now you're able to do other stuff that make the customer's experience that much better, or make the experience for your internal customer, your associate, that much better. They're able to better support their housekeepers. What we underestimated was how big a change that was going to be. And that a manager was standing there going, wow, now I've got somebody to vacuum the hallways. That's 8 hours a day off the menu. I don't have to worry about this. Now, because the 8 hours has to be, especially in the beginning, towards how do we implement this? How do we get it going? So you as leaders are going to have to be people that are going to have to think, okay, how do I take this change? How do I implement it? How do I remind my general manager, don't think you're taking 8 hours away from me, especially for the first month this thing is in place, because it's not going to happen. I need that time. Convincing an owner, because a lot of this stuff, like I noticed the UV lights, I looked at those, and those are $100,000. No owner is going to put $100,000 into something like that. A hospital will, but a hotel is going to be very, very difficult. So how do you convince an owner that that technology will work in that situation, and understand you as a leader are going to have a plan for implementation of that? So, sorry, Susan.
No, that's great. So I actually have a question. With those vacuums, would you use them then in rooms that have been checked out? Because if they're staying over and their stuff's everywhere.
Yeah, exactly, and they're still working through the technology. I'm now back in discussions with MaidBot about, they are claiming that their guest room, they can do the guest rooms now. So, but I am moving very, very slow, because I don't want to put that technology into a hotel and have it fail again.
Yeah.
So we're moving very, very slow to look at it, but they're claiming they've got that. What I keep saying to them is, good Lord, you can put AI into a 2-ton vehicle and roll it down the road and let it drive itself. Why the hell can't a vacuum just vacuum a room? And you think, well, I've got a Roomba. Well, how long does Roomba take to vacuum your house? You don't have that time. You've got to get it done in about 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. So it's, how do you get the speed? How do you get all the different way of mapping? So yes, it will be a checkout. We're moving slowly. We'll see. In 2 weeks, I'll have more information.
Okay, well, we look forward to hearing about that. So I don't want to be the only one asking questions. I want to give a chance to all of you, and Ms. Evita Ma is going to chair our Q&A session with our panelists. Oh, go ahead. So if they've got questions, they can line up at the podium, correct?
Yeah. Anyone have any questions, please come to the front and share your questions with the other audience.
Don't be shy. This is a great opportunity to ask some questions.
Yeah. Okay.
You can start us off, and maybe some will join you.
Yeah, I have one question about our employees actually. What were your employees' attitude or opinions on the technologies or new process like during the COVID? Were there any dissenting voices? How did you deal with them?
I mean, from a restaurant perspective, again, there wasn't too much. It was, I think the biggest thing, again, like I said, was, I think it was more just training the guests. The employees pretty much embraced everything. Now we had to work with them, especially with some of the things that we were doing in the kitchen as well. But most of it was with the guests.
I can give an example that may not necessarily be pandemic related, but I think anytime you implement a new piece of technology or a new process, it's the same.
pandemic or not. And the example I have is we have a wonderful ranch in Wyoming called Brush Creek Ranch that is an independent luxury ranch. But there there are a number of activities you can sign up for every day. You can go fishing, you can go to a culinary experience, you can go horseback riding, et cetera, et cetera. So we put in a new activity software last year that tracks what activity each of you want to do today or this afternoon or the next day versus an Excel spreadsheet is what we were on before, right? Well, we failed in year one of using that software. And the reason we failed is because I don't think we spent enough time setting it up properly on the forefront so that then the associates could be fast and quick and knowledgeable how to use it. So we're going to take another run at it this winter before we get into heavy season next year, but it's going to take practice, lots of practice and rehearsals to make sure that software is implemented. So I guess my moral of the story there is when you implement a new technology, there's a lot of things on the front end to make sure it works the way you need it to, so it's quick, so it actually adds value to your day instead of being another task. And in that particular example, version 1.0, we failed, but we'll get it the second time.
One of the technologies I think about is a technology, well, there's actually two. One is GXP in Marriott. If you work in a Marriott property, there's an internal system that we use. Well, it's part of the texting. It's part of the whole texting platform and the mobile key and stuff like that, but internally. Somebody calls the desk, it requests towels. If they do call, it goes into GXP, then it dispatches to somebody in the hotel to say, hey, room 101 needs towels. The housekeeping associate takes them to the room. They then hit it's done. It goes into the system. It's a lot easier to write it down and radio and not have to do that, not have to carry a mobile device and stuff like that. So yeah, there is pushback on that. Now, one thing I will say is that we have in some of our hotels, we have a technology called Hot Sauce for Housekeeping. So what you do is you break out the house and it goes on your board, your housekeeping board. Instead of being paper, you come in and you have a list of rooms. You get a mobile device. And on that mobile device, that's your board, okay? And so you clean a room, you hit a button that says, hey, I've started cleaning, you're done, you stop cleaning. If you have to, if there's a broken item in the room, you can report it on the phone. And then the mobile device tells you what your next room is. And it's great for us because it makes the breakout a lot easier. It's great for us too because if we all of a sudden are running short on queen rooms, we can tell Rex, push vacant queen rooms out to the housekeepers. And so we can expedite. In fact, REX stands for Rooms Expediter. So there's a lot of really great stuff for us. But when we rolled it out to our first hotel, one of the things that was frustrating for our housekeepers is that in order for the system to push a room to them, it had to be vacant in the property management system. And so they might be cleaning room 101, and the next room that's vacant is 210. So it's telling them go from 101 to 210. Well, they get frustrated because they just saw the guest walk out of room 108 with their suitcase, and so they're like, give me 108, give me 108. And so we had to listen to them and then implement processes that would help them to figure out, okay, that makes sense, because otherwise I'm running between things. Now, the other thing is we had to go back to our accountants and go, guys, you got to understand that the efficiency that you get with some of this, sometimes it takes a little longer because it's sending them from room 101 to room 210. So until we can figure that out, don't expect it to be, the payback to be as big. So yeah, there's pushback. No question, there's pushback.
I'll add to on top of Steve. So we have a program that we implemented. This was before COVID. It was called BevSpot. It's a beverage management inventory tool. And again, chiming in on what they were talking about, a lot of these tools are only as good as the person using them. So it's all about how it's set up. This tool, we have to put in all of our recipes for are cocktails, so the recipes have to be exact. You have to plug in all the inventory that you're carrying, all the prices have to be exact. And then if everything's set up properly, it connects to Micros, and as you're selling things, it's shooting that information to it, and the data that it can provide you, it tells you how much dead stock do you have. Why do you have so many bottles of Tito in stock? You only sell 10 bottles a week, and you're carrying 24. That's money that you're leaving on the shelf that should be somewhere else. Other things that it does is it actually calculates, like based on your forecast and what you've been ordering and what you've been using, it tells you what to order every week. So as an operator, it might take you 2 hours to figure out what you should order for the upcoming week. You can go into this tool if it's set up properly and just press a button and it tells you exactly. We've tested it. It's usually pretty accurate. So, but the properties that set it up right, it ends up saving them time in the long run. The ones that don't, they just do the same thing they've always done. So.
You were using, does this system have the chips that are, the microchips that are on the bottles to track inventory?
That's at the, we were talking about we have a ranch in Wyoming called Brush Creek Ranch that has one of the largest collections of wine in the world. I think it's worth $4 million. And to keep track of that wine, it's RFID tracking. So they put little tape and barcodes on the bottles that you can actually pull off. It doesn't damage the bottle. And then there's a little cart that it can move around, and it just registers everything, tells you what you have. Every time a bottle comes out, it registers it, so you know what's gone out, what's been missing, and you can balance that with what has been sold. When you have bottles that are worth $20,000, it becomes pretty important. So that's been a great tool. That's the only property that we have that at.
Yeah, we looked at RFID chips to put into linen because there are RFID chip systems that you can do, and the value of that is that you can inventory incredibly quick. Like, it will read, there are systems where you just pass a cart in front of the readers on all three sides, and it'll tell you exactly what is in that cart. Well, they're $1 a piece. And so washcloth is 80 cents. You're putting a $1 chip into there. The washcloth probably has a life of about 3 months before it's ruined and it's discarded. So it became too expensive. But I also became concerned because the companies approached me all the time, and I went back to him and I said, this guy says that you're using RFID chips in one of your properties. And so we'll have to go back and forth and go, hey, here's how it didn't work, and then I'll have to go back to the vendor and say, hey, it's not. Now, I do believe that RFID technology is going to be very important in inventory management, but there's only certain times that it will work. And again, it's something the employees have to get used to.
Any questions from students?
Somebody break the ice. Be brave.
Okay, just
There we go.
Hello. So you kind of talked about how technology lies in the hands of whoever is operating it, and then it's only as good as who is behind it. So would you say that when you're going about hiring new people, that you kind of have to change your standards a little bit, and that you that the people that you're hiring might start to be younger people rather than the older generations, given that generally younger generations are more tech savvy, and so that might have to be something that you have to look more into when you're hiring people, and that you might even have to turn away some people that might have experience in other areas.
Libby, do I see the name correct, Libby? We would never discriminate on age. Let me start with that. But in all seriousness, we do ask questions about comfort level of technology, or when we're speaking to a candidate, whether it's a candidate who's been 20 years in the industry or a candidate who's coming fresh out of college, about their experiences and their positions before of what technologies they've used. A lot of Marriott systems are very proprietary. The sales system we use is specific to Marriott. So if I have a candidate of any age that is well-versed in that system and then many other questions we're going to ask about, I certainly would give them advantage because they're versed in that system. I think that's a great benefit of this hotel here becoming a part of the Autograph collection. For those of you that are able, and I recommend you do, work here, having that experience here with their systems, no matter what department you're in, would give you a leg up. So yes, feeling comfortable in technology is very important. I think that's the root question you're asking me, and it is a part of, depending on which job we're talking about, what things we ask about. Yes.
I'll just add briefly onto that. You know, one of the things that culturally we do as a company is we look to hire people for 3 jobs ahead. So we're not hiring you for the job you're going to do today. And of course, your proficiency with technology is going to be an important factor, and definitely more important moving forward. But that's one of the things I love about our company is we're not seeking to fill a position. We're hiring people for what they can be later, and I think that's special.
I have a 34-year-old lady who works with me. Her name's Whitney. She's absolutely phenomenal. Anybody who opened this hotel would have met her. And it's fun because I'm able to go, okay, you handle this. This is more like your age stuff. But what I would emphasize, and what she understands greatly, is that it is still about the human interaction. And you have to remember, well, for instance, we get very concerned because some of these mobile technologies you are able to get on your phone. And while we want people to respond very quickly, the last thing I want is for somebody to walk up to my front desk and the person behind the desk is on the phone. I am going to go ballistic. Because that says, hey, you're an interruption of my time. And so we have to understand that technology, you all being very good at technology is a real plus. However, it's the human side, and you have to be able to bridge that gap. And you have to be able to understand that your use of technology, like you go into a room and everybody's on their phone. And people are texting back and forth in the same room. And our customers and the view of hospitality is not that. And so as you are leaders, yeah, your biggest strength can also be your biggest downfall. So learn to bridge the gap, learn to marry the two, and you're going to be incredibly successful. And I would like to thank you for being the first one to get up, to come up here, to ask us a question.
Thank you.
We have a $100 gift card for you.
Whoa!
Not really, but.
See, that's all it took.
Yes, she broke the seal.
Hello. I have a question about the younger generation. So since the younger generation has more of the technology background, because we've kind of grown up with it, as you see them start their careers and start traveling for jobs, do you see an increase in the mobile keys and less interaction with the employees, or does it stay pretty consistent?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's no question about it. But there is still an educational piece. And brands are really, one of the things to use, for instance, the Marriott mobile app, you have to be a Marriott Bonvoy member. You have to download that onto your phone. So again, the AI, the concern about, hey, you're going to use my information. I only want a certain number of apps downloaded onto my phone. Marriott very quickly during the pandemic went to another web-based. So you had a choice. You could do web-based check-in or you could do app check-in. So you didn't have to be a Marriott Bonvoy member. I'm reading more and more in press that there is a push that loyalty programs are not going to have the value that they once had. And so, and certainly your OTAs, your online travel agencies, are pushing their own loyalty programs so you can stay anywhere. As long as they're fronting the reservation, you can stay anywhere. So you're not going to have the app downloaded. So I think we're going to have to adjust to that and figure that out, because if loyalty programs become less valuable, then maybe they don't want the Marriott Bonvoy app or the Hilton Honors app or the Hyatt World of Hyatt app downloaded. But you absolutely, it's going to just become more and more and more prevalent, and they're not going to want to pick up a phone. My prediction is, one day you're not going to have phones in the room. You just, it's going to be a technology. Yeah. Yeah. It's just not going to be used. So yeah, absolutely.
It may be a very simple example I'm going to provide, but last evening my parents were in town and we had pizza. However, what I'm about to share is if my parents were to have ordered the pizza, they would have picked up the phone and ordered it. I did it on my computer. The next generation probably would have done it on their iPhone. And that's about as simple as example as I can explain the evolution of generational small moments in the service industry. Right now, they're very capable of doing it on their computer or their iPhone, but they just go back to what they've always done before, and that is going that path. So, for some reason, your question led me to that example, but I thought you might enjoy it.
Well, can I just say one more thing on this one, Virginia? Is that we have to remember as leaders and as operators that just because the way they're communicating changed doesn't mean that we can take away that person executing it. We're looking at how, because of COVID and because of the change in working expectations, more people want to work from home. And we really need front desk people. We can't find front desk people. So we were looking at, okay, what are some functions at the front desk that you can take to an at-home environment? And we thought, hey, we'll take all the pre-arrival planning. We'll take the blocking. We'll take the sending the mobile check-in notices, sending the mobile key notifications. Because we can figure out, okay, we can put somebody in their home and do this, okay? If airlines can take reservations, most airline reservations agents are sitting in their homes. So we started to look at that, and there's a lot of technology issues. That's not the point I'm going to make. But we began to realize is that it was not pre-arrival planning. We've renamed the position to Digital Experience Coordinator, because there has to be somebody back there grabbing all of this in the background and doing something with it. So you as operators have to remember that as people begin to do more and more and more of this on your phone, you as leaders have to have the support and the infrastructure behind it to make sure that it works. Because when it doesn't work, think about it. You go ballistic. And you got to make sure that it works. And that's where I didn't think about Digital Experience Coordinator. Whitney thought of that. Whitney said, you know, Steve, this is really about the digital experience. We need to rename this role. And now we are working, we just had a meeting with them yesterday with Marriott, and we're the first management company that is going to do this, because we're pushing it, and we're pushing them to say, you have to give us the technology to make this available, because I can't get people on my front desk. I need to be able to get somebody who needs to sit at home to do this in their off time. You guys figure it out. So as leaders in the industry, we have to remember that. As our customer changes, like you said, we have to change with them, and we have to look at, okay, what does this look like behind it? How do we support it?
I'll add just to that too. You know, from a restaurant perspective, we're physically designing restaurants dependent upon where they're located. Like the one I talked about earlier, Zombie Taco, is actually on University of Texas campus. So that's, you know, when I'm talking about pay at the table and that interaction, that probably wouldn't work in a different concept somewhere else. You know, and we're continuing to look at various concepts. We have some of our concepts, we call them something else behind the scenes, because sometimes they have different names. We have one that's called an Urban Millennial Coffee House, and we're, you know, going to continue to evolve, and I'm sure that concept is going to, it's very tech savvy, and I'm sure that's going to continue to evolve over time. So, okay. Thank you.
Okay, so my question is kind of about the pandemic as a whole. A lot of these technological changes have happened, like, to deal with problems caused by the pandemic. Do you think that these solutions, like, would have happened without the pandemic, and it just kind of sped up the process? And are these changes, like, for the better, pandemic or not?
You know, for me, you know, I think the one thing that it has sped up is for the formula of the restaurant industry. I think we started off in my list of 5 and going to the automation piece is, so the demand is back, but the employees, not all of them have come back. There's a lot that I know that took COVID as an opportunity to rethink their lives, and you know, I ended up in the restaurant business somehow, and maybe I want to try something new. Maybe they'll be back, I don't know. But a lot of people left, and that's kind of shrunk the pool of talent that we get to choose from. And then there's some that we think are going to come back, but we're not sure yet. So for me, that's probably a negative of COVID, because it's accelerated things that inevitably probably would have happened down the road. But I'm not sure that, you know, we're prepared for it, and the employees that are working today are paying the price. And then we're doing whatever we can to support them, and it comes with intense recruiting, and we're doing crazy things like referral bonuses and things like that. And what we found is the best thing is use our own talent to find more talent. But the gist of my answer is just that's one thing COVID, I think, it didn't do justice for us. So, all right.
Yeah, I think in the meeting space environment, the technology that some companies were forced to jump into and use and adopt, it certainly sped that up. But to your point, it was probably coming sooner or later. And major conventions, they had to invest a lot more in audiovisual. Perhaps 3 years ago, they were still video recording a meeting such as this, but in the pandemic, they really had to increase those capabilities to broadcast it live to perhaps people all around the world. And that's a lot. There's a lot more to that than just having a camera on site, right? You've got to have better Wi-Fi. You've got to have better infrastructure of technology to push that out. So I think a lot of these major conventions that did that will continue to do that, because now they can get more attendees around the world that will register and perhaps not fly in, and though they've actually broadened their audience of who might attend a convention in the future. So, and then back to my example earlier of a smaller company that maybe never used Zoom or Teams, they're in that game now, and it's going to be hard for them to turn back now that they've adopted that.
I think a lot of the technology was sped up, mobile check-in, mobile key, those kinds of things. Marriott wouldn't have necessarily found another option for checking in had this not come about. But I think also it was inevitable. I think what's driving it more now is the lack of employees. I don't think anyone would have predicted, well, there's always been and this is something now in this new role I'm really kind of focusing in on. There's always been demographic information that says we were headed to a labor shortage. There's always been that. But no one would have predicted that COVID would have sped this up the way that it sped it up. One of the ways that we were caught off guard is that we had international interns in a lot of our hotels, and they had to go home. So when we started back up, they couldn't get back in the country. So all of a sudden, a hotel that had 10 international interns going through rotations, they're gone. So now they've got to replace them. So yes, it sped it up, but I think, like I was looking at robotics long before this, because I felt like it was headed there. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, for the time's sake, we're gonna stop here. So thanks everyone again for such a wonderful sharing. Let's pass the floor back to Dr. Goldman.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a couple of minutes. We want to do a little lightning round with you all to share some things that came about due to the pandemic. And you tell us if you think it's something that the industry is going to keep, or are we going to see this fizzle out? And a lot of it you've touched on already, so I'm going to pick some maybe we haven't talked about. One is workcation. So some hotels were selling rooms to guests to work in from like 9 to 5 during the day because people are tired of working from home and they wanted that change of scenery. So it was a way to maybe bring in a little bit of money to the hotel during the pandemic. So allow them to work there, access Wi-Fi, things like that. Do you see that as still a viable option? Are we keeping that, or do you see it fizzling out as we get more overnight guests back? Fizzle.
Fizzle in the rooms, keeping small boardrooms.
Okay, good. Nice twist on that one. How about the COVID confident accreditation? So a lot of governments or had guidelines, or like here the HNLA had guidelines. So if hotels implemented certain plans that were meeting expectations of cleanliness, sanitation, things like that, guests could know that this hotel is participating in this kind of COVID confident. Do you see that as still hotels just keeping that, maybe even if the government doesn't say you have to follow this? Is that something you would keep or fizzle out?
You're the expert in this one, but my feeling would be that, at some point it may not be called COVID confident, but heightened awareness of cleanliness and sanitation will be, it was always top of mind in restaurants, and I think we did a great job with it, and we have policies and procedures put in place that we didn't really change, but it'll be top of mind more than ever for maybe forever.
Yeah.
So,
I'd say the marketing of it will fizzle. Think of the millions of dollars that companies spent over the last 2 years to market electrostatic sprayers, or Hilton did a program where they literally put a sticker on every guest room after it's been cleaned, so they know that it's been not been touched since that moment when you enter. There's a ton of marketing that went around that, videos that were created, and they have to pay to push out the video, you have to pay for the stickers. A lot of rental cars did similar things as well. So I think it'll become table stakes, the processes, but the marketing of it will fizzle.
Agreed. I think you have to remember that the guest's perception of sanitation and safety is visual. So they expect you've sanitized. It's visual that really makes a difference. So we'll focus more on visual and less on the marketing of it.
Okay, very good. Okay, I think I only had time for those two, but I want to thank you. If you guys will join me in thanking our panelists for your time today. And I will turn it back over.
All right. Thank you so much. That was very, very interesting. I was taking my notes, and hopefully for the students I'm going to be meeting afterwards, we're going to be having some interesting conversations on the panel discussion today. So next we have Vicki Wicks. Vicki is the general manager for the Union Club Hotel, but I think most importantly, Vicki is such a huge supporter of our programs. I'm just going to ask her to come forward. Vicki's going to be talking about careers in white lodging.
Well, hello everybody. It's nice to see so many familiar faces today. It has really been our pleasure to have you all coming through the hotel, getting experiences in different areas, and hopefully you've been able to determine what area you might like to get a little bit more experience in. When I think back to when we were trying to open this hotel, pre-opening, and I think back to May of 2020, and I was talking to different hospitality students, and the concern was, where is my future in hospitality? And I think we have seen through everything that was set up here today, the future is bright. There are lots of opportunities. And it's really where do you want to pursue and what's your particular area of interest. So when we look at what's next and what can I do, as you pursue your degrees and you're getting that education, we are here to help you get the practical side as well. So if you need an internship, if you're looking for a part-time job, if you're looking for something to do over the summer, or you're just looking to gain extra experience, we're here to help you. If you prefer the online experience and want to just go on and talk to Olivia, you can do that. But also, I want to let you all know that I'm here to help you as a bridge. So as you start looking at, oh, I forgot, I need that internship, and you need help finding one, whether it's in Nashville, which we helped somebody do this past summer, it's here in West Lafayette, it's in Chicago, Austin. We have lots of opportunities for you. There are experiences out at Brush Creek Ranch. There are experiences in the Fairfield Inn at Notre Dame. There's experiences in Nashville. And then, of course, I would love you all to work here at the Union Club Hotel at some point. So whether you want to be in F&B, if you want to be in rooms, you want to be in sales and marketing, or you want to dabble a little bit in everything, I think what we've learned is over the course of the past year that flexibility is the key. No longer do we just go down one path and stay there. Our associates, our management team, we are total hotel associates. It is not unusual to see somebody from housekeeping over helping in banquets, or up helping to do a marketing plan, or at the restaurant running food, or helping behind the front desk as there's a line. So you really do have to have that understanding that flexibility is the key. How quickly can you adapt and change to what's coming in your environment? And I personally think it's fun. Somebody asked me, what is your day like? And for those of you, I've had 4 different students who were with me during the course of the lab. Each of you had a different experience. There was one day I was doing month end, another day I'm running around the hotel, another time I'm at the front desk, and during the course of seeing you all at the lab, I think you've seen the same thing. I may be helping you in housekeeping one day, I may be up in the restaurant the next, or I may be in my office. So the future is bright. You all are becoming the next generation of leaders. Embrace it. And don't forget that when you need something, there's still a human behind the website. And come see me. All right? All right. Thank you all very much. They're setting up box lunches. And we are going to have some of our managers come join us very, very soon. Courtney, anybody met Courtney Baby at the front office? Yes, we're shaking our heads, yes. And then Tana will be up here, and some of our student trainers. So thank you all for being here. It's truly our pleasure, and I can't wait to see what you guys do next. Take care.